Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where we are currently in this situation here. Now I did manage to get the Jool station into a pretty good circular orbit there. The gas scooper here, we need to take another pass at this maneuver, and in fact this maneuver is probably at this point completely useless to us. I'm going to clear the input block just to get rid of the maneuver. Honestly, it doesn't help. Doesn't help at all. So the Jool gas scooper is in orbit around Jool. It's an elliptical orbit, to be sure, but an orbit nonetheless. So now we are going to just hop on back to the Space Center, or rather the tracking station, because I happen to know from looking earlier that we warped ahead almost enough time to do the fuel module burn. Fantastic. The other Jool gas scooper has got a ways to go. That's going to be like a year before that's good to go. So that is definitely going to be a bit problematic. However, this guy's almost good to go. This is only a 400 meter per second burn, only a 55-second burn. It's waited years to pull this off. A very, very long time indeed. So we want to burn this at T-minus 27.5 seconds. So we're just going to warp ahead a couple of days here and get that good to go. So yeah, 27.5 seconds. We'll go ahead and warp a little further manually. And we'll burn this right about now. And off we go. Fantastic. This engine is actually probably a little more powerful than it'll need to be ultimately. The question is, when is this rendezvous going to be? Let's see here. That rendezvous is going to be in 355 days. Okay. That's fine. We will set up a maneuver for that and mark that. I'm not sure if that's going to be first or if the other gas scooper is going to be first. I think it's going to be the gas scooper, if I had to guess. Technically, we don't have data here. I did expect this Communitron to have data. We are currently on literally the opposite side of Kerbal, I think. I've overshot. We probably don't want to overshoot quite that much. I mean, if we look at this, we're currently here. We're literally on the other side of the sun as Kerbal, so that's not shocking that we don't have data. That's okay. So we are going to go ahead and bring this back. Now, because we don't have data, we can only do full throttle and no throttle. We'll call this good enough. We can't delete that maneuver node because we're control locked. Personally, I think that's a dumb rule. I'm going to clear the input lock and do that. Now, we can't create a new maneuver, and I'm okay with that. What I want to do is I want to create a timer in 355 days. So we'll need to go into here, create alarm. Time to alarm being how long? 355 days, 2 hours, 39 minutes. So 355 days, 2 hours, and 39 minutes. We'll add that alarm. Fantastic. So now that we have this alarm here, we now know when we're going to need to do this burn. So let's hop on back to the tracking station. And let's see which is going to happen next. Now, the actual burn for the gas scooper is going to be a very, very long one. And probably a multi-phase burn. I would prefer not to have that be in the episode. That's going to be in 320 days. So technically, this one is next. Oof. With our solar panel situation, it's not the most engaging of content. And I apologize for that. We'll get lined up for this burn. And we're going to need to warp forward quite a lot here. So we'll get started on that warp. This actually isn't in orbit. We're just moving incredibly slowly at this apoapsis. And letting Jool catch up. Okay, that's fine. That is completely okay. This is most of the warp that our fuel module will need. And we don't necessarily need a connection to dock that up. It would be nice, though. So hopefully we're not exactly opposite of Kerbin by the time that's done. We probably still will be pretty close to it, though. That's a very similar orbit. So we have a little under 6 months to warp forward here. And that is fantastic. So you can see here our manual time alarm ticking on down. This will be first, though. And this is going to be quite the burn. So we do not have enough electric charge to run both of these for longer than a few minutes. Now, that was always the plan. We knew that the electric charge was going to be a big issue. Hello, Jool. Actually, before it brightened up, that was looking really cool. We can burn this at basically any time. We're going to run out... World's first milestone. Oh, the first flyby of LAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAA No, we weren't in the gravitational influence of Lathe on the previous burn. We must have flown by it on this without even noticing. I don't know. Regardless, you can see here our electric charge dropping fast. It's to be expected, but it's certainly not ideal. So where are we right now in our orbit? Okay, 42 minutes. So technically we want to do this at 21 minutes and 24 seconds. Actually, it should probably be a little before that, but we're going to have to take multiple passes at this. Reason being, we're simply not going to have the power. We're only going to be running on one engine for quite a while here. So we'll get this started right about now. And let's bring that up to time warp, or rather physics warp it. And we're going to run out of electric charge pretty quickly. So we can see we have 2 kilonewtons of thrust from each engine here. My question is, when we're down to only running one engine, does that thrust reduce due to our lower power throughput? Maybe. Now you can see here that we do have a few minutes of electric charge to run these engines. And ideally, when we're operational, that's all we're going to need. It's just that this particular burn is a tough one. This particular burn, we need to burn off quite a lot of speed. And we don't have a connection right now. And I think primarily that's because Kerbin's over here, Jool is over here. We're not necessarily at the furthest point of Jool's orbit, are we? Actually, I don't think it gets much further from Kerbin to Jool right now. So, yeah, that's definitely part of the issue there. But that's okay. We don't necessarily need it. Yeah, there's the shimmy. 1.2 kilonewtons of thrust. So yeah, we're at less than half the thrust when we run out of battery. So it's not the greatest, to be sure. These solar panels, they don't do a fantastic job. They would be better if they were articulated. And that is something that we should have done. We just changed camera mode. Why did we do that? Did our periapsis dip too low? No. And we're not technically in orbit yet. This is still technically a flyby. But like I said, we're probably going to have to do multiple passes of this. Unfortunately, the lack of a connection makes things somewhat complicated, but that's okay. And how long is our actual orbit going to be? I mean, when we're at this final position, it's only like a 6-hour orbit. Actually, probably less than that. It's like a 3.5-hour orbit, approximately. But yeah, we knew there would be a power crunch here. Absolutely. That was always going to be the case. Especially in this orientation, which we have to hold this orientation. But the sun is... Where is the sun right now? Up there. Okay. So you can see how this is a non-ideal orientation for our solar panels. Like I said, if these were articulated, that would be a lot better. And in future, I will definitely articulate the solar panels. But we just need to slow down enough to be captured by Jool's gravity here. That's the overall goal. But yeah, we're definitely moving a lot slower now that we are down to 1.2 kilonewtons instead of 4 kilonewtons. Electric charge deprived. And that's pretty much the moral of the story out here. We knew this would be the case. We just didn't have tools to generate enough power to run ion engines out here, but it also didn't make much sense to create this station otherwise. And this station needed to be created for our construction goals, which are predetermined for us by an entirely different game. So, here we are. It's what we've got. So, we are getting closer and closer to the periapsis here. And that is great. We definitely like that. That means that our apoapsis is actually, I think, starting to move a decent amount. Yeah, look at that. It's definitely starting to move. That's really good. That means that we're going to get captured by the Julian gravity quite soon here. And that's exactly what we want. Like I said, we're going to have to take multiple passes at this, for sure. We're not quite to that periapsis yet. We've still got about 4 minutes to that. So that is great. This is our current gas scooper. Our existing gas scooper, I'm not actually sure where that is. I'm not seeing it here. Oh, hey, there we go. We're captured by Jool. The Julian gravity. Wait, what? How did this gas scooper get flung out? Wait, what? I made sure that it was clear of all potential gravitational obstacles. It was in roughly the same position that this is. How did that happen? Like, no, seriously, how is this even possible? That orbit, as you should have saw at the beginning of this video, was about here. I don't think... The flyby of Lathe. The flyby of Lathe. I didn't move it back quite far enough. That's what it comes down to. Well, good thing we sent 2. I mean, we have the Delta V, I'm sure, in this gas scooper to come back. It's going to be kind of tight, but I think we could do it. It would take a long time. And I'm not particularly interested in having it take that long. I kind of want to finish up this series sooner rather than later, like on episode 150 would be nice. Like, this is episode 146 here. I do like to finish up episodes on, or series rather, on nice round numbers. We're just going to burn as much as we can here until we no longer have the light, though. That's the overall concept here. And then we're going to have to do the dock up of the solar station as our next thing. That's in 35 days. There's no way that... Well, this is actually only in 16 days at this point. This has dropped dramatically. Last time I checked, it was like 300, but that's changed. So that's good to know. We do see the Terminator at this point, so we are going to be entering the dark side pretty soon here, and we will lose all power. And that's completely okay. But yeah, I must have not brought it back quite enough, and it got captured by Lathe and flung out of the system. And for some reason, probably because it was the number of orbits that we warped there, it never showed up in the patched conics. That's the only thing I can imagine. But yeah, I think we're mostly going to write this gas scooper off as a loss. We could bring it back, but I don't think it's worth the time. It's the fact of the matter. It would take a tremendous amount of burn time to make that happen. Well, we're not going to lose power for a little bit yet here. We are definitely losing power, but not for a bit. Our orbit is still quite wide right now, so we're going to stay in view of the sun for quite a long time. We'll have to be like up here before we lose view of the sun. And we may want to stop our burn before then, actually. We're already losing a fair amount of efficiency. Yeah, I'm going to stop our burn here. And we're going to have to manually warp this, which I don't really like. We're going to warp it up over this way. Yeah, look at that. Patch conics there. Just now updating to show this lathe encounter. That would have been nice to know before we left this area. Just saying. Okay, I think that we probably want to stop this warp and begin a small burn here. In hopes. Yeah, I really don't like that this only now showed up. That is obnoxious. And we're control locked, so we can't set up another maneuver. Well, we could use a bit of a gravity assist here. Flip over to radial out. This is going to make our inclination wonky. Absolutely wonky. And I hate it. I hate everything about it. Lathe, why you do this to me? Hey, you're 24, day 80? Oh, then we don't care. We definitely don't care about that then. That's why it didn't show up at first. We're fine. Okay, we're very slowly creeping towards that apoapsis. We're going to start accelerating on the way down. And we're beginning that acceleration, falling in towards Jool. I'm going to slow down our time warp soon. About now, in fact. Going to continue falling on in. This sure looks like a lathe encounter right now to me. Does that not look like a lathe encounter? I don't think this is at year 24, day 80, 2 hours. I think this is right now. Yeah, we've got a lathe encounter coming in. Okay, so what can we do about this? Well, can try a bit of a normal burn and see what that does. I wish Lathe would stop sneaking up on us, though. That would sure be nice. That's not particularly helpful. What happens if we just burn full-on prograde here? That is dipping into the Lathe atmosphere. That's a problem. That's a big, big problem. I really wish the patched conics had told me about this before I started warping. Like, we kind of can't do anything about it, right? What can we do about this? Try to burn normal, maybe? It's doing a whole lot of nothing. This is going to impact Lathe. Why did the patch conics not tell us this beforehand? That's my question. And with our thrust to weight, I don't think there's anything we can do about it. I mean, we pretty much have to accelerate here, or rather warp forward, until we are in lathe space. Like this. And try to radial out this. Is this having any effect? Not really. I'm honestly going to blame this on the patch conics. I mean, we are raising up our periapsis here. What is this doing to our final trajectory? I have no idea, because I'm actually going to remove the input lock here to remove this so that I can actually see what's going on here. Yeah, that's very strange. Now, I'm not going to try to do anything that would require the input lock to be removed, because we're not connected. That's fair enough. Lathe, what is your atmospheric characteristics? 50 kilometers. Okay. This has totally messed everything up, though. The fact that this is twice in two rounds, like 2 ships, that have an encounter with Lathe that didn't pop up, I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with that at all. That encounter should have appeared, and if it had, I would have continued burning when we were over here, and we wouldn't have had this encounter. It happened same orbit, so I don't see why the patch conics didn't pick up on it. Makes no sense to me. So we just need to raise our periapsis up over 50 kilometers here. So that's 35. And of course, this is just kind of making this worse over here. Like, we're wildly off on our prograde, or rather on our inclination. So we're just going to raise this up. I mean, this does mean we're not going to have other moon encounters other than potentially more lathe encounters over here. So that's a thing. We are still doing okay on our electric charge for the moment. So we'll raise this up to, say, 51 kilometers for right now. And let's see if we can get some, like, normal maneuverings here to hopefully be thrown out in a slightly better way. I have no idea which way this is going. I'm actually going to create a maneuver here and not really utilize it. This is just a planning maneuver. I want to see what this ends up doing to the overall orbit. And then we impact. So it needs to be kind of like that. Look at how much delta V that is. Thanks, Lathe. Oh, thanks, Lathe. Well, we know it needs to be, like, normal retrograde. So, wait, are we? No, we're not connected. So, we need to go, like, to retrograde here. Position it, like, up here-ish. Except that it's not really wanting to position between the two of them. It's like taking an arc. But this is the best we can do without a connection. We can just start working on this. Head over towards retrograde and stability assist. And get rid of this. That was just for planning purposes. I don't know. I really don't know about this. We'll get what we can done, but I'm not holding my breath. I'm going to put a cut in here because it is about that time. I mean, we can salvage this, but at what cost? Oh, Lathe, you can't sneak up on us like that 2 times in a row. Insane. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and I'll see you all next time.